Let's begin.
Here we go! Hi, everybody!
Start the insanity.
You are not worried, are you?
Me? No.
Well, we're waiting.
Hello and welcome to Super Media All-Stars. We are a weekly podcast, and tonight we are talking about movies. I'm your host, John Harris, and tonight I'm joined by two other All-Stars. The first one being Jake Boston and Brent Harris. That's going to be the...
Charlie? Is that you? Oh!
This is going to be the theme of our episode tonight. We all just saw Hereditary last night, Thursday night opening, so we're going to dive hardcore into this latest scary thriller. Wait and see, we're going to talk about it. But first, before we dive into things, guys, it's been a week, 2 weeks since we talked movies.
Yeah, we talked E3 last week.
Yeah. So you guys had a chance to watch anything new?
You know me, John.
I do know you, Jake.
I've watched quite a bit, and I've had this last week off, so oh boy, I'm going to have to rein it in here. The documentary I watched over break was Making Fun, the story of Funko.
Oh, yeah, the Funko Pops.
Uh-huh. Well, that's what they're most known for is Funko Pops, but it's kind of fun just going through and seeing like what they did before Funko Pops, because they were a company for 10 years before they started making Funko Pops.
Really?
Yeah. So that's kind of fun, but then like the first third is like their history before Funko Pops, and then once they start talking about Funko Pops, they start talking about pop culture, they start talking about like the collecting aspect to everything and celebrity culture, and it just gets weird. Like it gets off track out of Funko and just starts following like different fans of the company, but then by the end it like combines everything back into Funko, and it kind of just works in the end.
Really?
Yeah, I gave it a 3.5. It was good, and it'll definitely like, whether you're a fan of Funko or not, it'll make you a fan of the company if you watch it.
I wonder if that dies off.
I know some people that are already sick of Funko Pops.
Really? I feel like it's been around for 3 or 4 years now.
It's been around since 2008.
I can be sick of Funko Pops. You just, if you don't like them, just don't get them.
Yeah, it's like, oh, there's a thing that you like. I bet there's a Funko for it.
What's your favorite Funko Pop?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I'll tell you mine.
Okay.
Mine's
Mine's
an offshoot of the Funko Pops, but I think it's within their label, is the Cuphead ones. Mugman, yep, Cuphead, and the Devil.
Yep.
I
The
love
Devil is
The
fantastic.
Devil is awesome.
Yeah.
That's true. Those are really good.
Uh-huh. I would say my favorite as of late have been like the vinyl figures. Like it's called VYNL.
Okay.
And they just have this art style that I like. Like Funko is just kind of like dead eyes, just like round circles with nothing in them, and it's just like, oh, throw an IP on here, easy, boom.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I don't know. Vinyls just kind of like capture the personality of what IP they're showing. Like they have a Freddy and Jason one, and they make them super cute looking.
That's different from Dorbs?
Yeah, Dorbs are horrible.
Okay,
Fuck
yeah.
Dorbs. And those are made by Funko too.
Okay, as I say, I don't like Dorbs at all.
Dorbs are round and stupid, look like bowling ball pins, except worse.
Yep.
Yeah, no, Dorbs are awful.
Was it the alien one?
Jake has an alien pop.
Yeah, I think that one. I
Like the
that
Alien Queen, that big 6-inch one.
one. Yeah,
That's a really nice one.
yeah, I like that one.
I like the advertising people. Like I have a Mr. Monopoly one. They have a whole bunch of like the Trix Rabbit and like Lucky Charms guy.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of advertisements in general and mascots, so if I can have an action figure for it, I'll get it. I'm trying to rewatch every David Fincher movie.
Yeah.
So this week's is The Social Network,
Okay.
and I fucking love this movie.
I still have not seen it.
You've never seen it ever?
Still haven't seen it.
He can make like courtroom dramas and coding into a computer fucking fascinating and captivating. it's unreal.
Not to be outdone by The Red Circle.
The fuck is The Red Circle? You mean The Circle?
Oh, The Circle.
With Tom Hanks? Why do you remember that movie?
I remember being like, oh, this is going to be a ripoff. And then it tanked like a ripoff.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's what makes me think of that.
Jesus. And I know that you guys keep on talking to me about how I'm known as the Heist Hound, so I have to talk about another heist movie. I saw one, I think it was straight to Netflix. It's called The Vault.
Okay.
It stars James Franco.
So,
And one of the girls from Orange is the New Black, and then like nobody else that I've heard of. And I'll spoil a little bit of this movie, not all of it, but they go and do a bank heist job, but then it turns out that they have to go to the basement to get the vault in the basement that has all the money,
yeah.
and the basement's haunted.
What?
It's like a horror bank heist movie. and it's fucking horrible.
Yeah.
It is so bad.
I can see it.
I don't want anybody to ever see this movie. 1.5 stars.
Wow.
And then last week we did a video game podcast, and a bunch of us still saw a movie. I think Brent and I went to see Upgrade.
Correct.
So let's tag team this one, shall we?
Mhm.
Upgrade's pretty good. Pretty decent sci-fi movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I did not think it was going to be that heavy on the sci-fi,
Yeah.
which was very pleasant to have that. So
I would say the first third, like the first 30 minutes of this movie, I was not liking at all. It just seemed like very fucking boring until the AI gets shown up into a person. That's when things get kicked into high gear and it doesn't really let up. And there's some really fucking cool action set pieces in here.
amazing, actually.
Yeah.
It's like what Matrix kind of did when it first came out.
That's what some people are saying. It didn't go that far for me, but there are some cool sci-fi aspects. Like, it kind of reminded me of the Venom trailer, except there's a guy that kind of looks like Tom Hardy, but he's not Tom Hardy. And instead of all like the black tentacles popping out like Venom has, it's just like an AI guy doing everything for him. I gave that one a 3.5 as well. I wanted to give it a little higher, but like the last 20 minutes of this movie is awesome.
Yeah.
But I don't know, some things just didn't click for me. It's good. Like, if you're a fan of sci-fi movies, we've been spoiled with sci-fi movies recently, like in the past like 5-10 years.
It was a hard between 3.5 and 4. I'm going to give it a 3.5 though. But it was so, I don't know, it might if I rewatch it might go up to 4. It was so good.
The set pieces are the only reason why I want to rewatch it,
Yeah.
because they're that good.
My girlfriend has got me into, like, halfway into a show called The End of the Fucking World on Netflix.
Yeah.
It's like a twist on a kind of a teenage love story, but it's way, way messed up.
It's one of the shows that Ab and I had on our queue and just haven't watched yet.
It's really great because it's only like 7 episodes, and they're only 18 to 20 minutes long.
Nice.
So it's like a long movie broken into several segments.
Yeah.
And it's really good. If you enjoy like a dark twist on kind of a teenage romantic comedy, but it's not really fair to classify as that,
Sure.
give it a watch. It's some solid stuff.
All right, so normally I come up short with watching stuff, but I actually made an effort to go back and watch some things I have on my HBO.
I'm proud of you, bud.
And other stuff. Starting off with Lego Batman movie. I never actually watched that.
Oh, wow.
It was thoroughly entertaining.
Lego Batman was really good. Never saw Ninjago, even though the first 2 Lego movies were good. I just skipped it.
It's on HBO. I haven't watched it yet.
Ninjago's on HBO?
Uh-huh.
Oh, fuck. I should probably watch it.
So Lego Batman was an easy 3.5 for me. That was a solid watch.
That's probably about what I would give it.
I watched The Great Wall with Matt Damon.
Why would you ever do that?
Oh, no.
Just because I wanted to watch it and get it over with.
You could. I will never have time to watch The Great Wall.
Wow. It was something. It felt like it was a movie that was written in Chinese and then was English translated because the dialogue was garbage. It was so bad. Yeah, I'll give it a 1.5.
Wow.
Yeah, it wasn't
Matt
great.
Damon.
Yeah, and Willem Dafoe's in it for some reason.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. What else did I watch? I watched The Hitman's Bodyguard with Samuel L. Jackson and
Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds,
I was
yes.
interested in this one. How'd it go?
Fantastic.
Yeah?
It was, I don't know how I didn't do well. Super under the radar. I gave it a 4.
Sure.
And I like hardly ever laugh out loud during movies. And I caught myself like 4 or 5 times laughing out loud in this movie. It was actually amazing. So definitely check that out if you have HBO. I also watched Marauders, which is also on HBO. It's weirdly with Bruce Willis, Dave Bautista, Adrian Grenier, which is the guy from Law & Order. He's Detective Elliot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
This must have been like straight to digital movie. I've never even heard of this.
It was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
What would you rate Marauders?
Marauders?
Yeah, Marauders.
Modders?
Yep.
What'd you call them?
Not-
Modders?
Not martyrs. Martyrs, you don't want to talk about martyrs.
Marauders was 3.5. 3 or 3.5. Probably 3.5 though. It was a solid watch as well.
Nice.
And then
Brent cleaned house this week. He watched a lot of movies.
That's fine.
I also went back and watched Alien 1, the director's cut, because I had never watched the actual director's cut version.
Sure.
I didn't really recognize anything different. I know there's some scenes that he edited differently, but I couldn't pick them out.
I think it's just a little longer, and It's when like they're just getting to the planet and it's just stretched out a little bit longer.
Oh, okay.
I think.
So it's just like the minor exploration they do.
Yeah.
It's a lot slower burn than I remember.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
First like half of that movie is super slow.
Yeah. But it's still good. I completely forgot that Bilbo Baggins.
Mm-hmm.
Which I completely forgot he was an AI.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a nice twist again. And then I also finally started watching Rick and Morty.
Oh, good. For the first time.
First time. I've watched a couple episodes, but I'm finally actually sitting down and watching it.
So was the hype too much for you? Is it still good? Are you liking it, or are you like, what's the big deal about this?
It's hit and miss with me. Some episodes are just okay. Like they have some bits, and then some episodes are amazing.
Sure.
Like I'm not even sure what season it is, but the Mad Max episode is
Season
probably
3.
still one of my favorites.
See, that was one of my least favorites.
Really?
Because that one, like, went too hard on parody for me. Like, I like originality in Rick and Morty.
Fair.
Even though, like, they did a fucking Freddy Krueger knockoff with Scary Terry, and that's one of my favorite characters, so who the fuck am I to judge?
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's jump into the main portion of our show. And as like I said, we also saw Hereditary opening night Thursday. And before we dive into some of our general thoughts, we're going to be in a spoiler-free section. We'll go into a spoiler section in the middle, and we'll end with a 5-star review, spoiler-free. Before we talk about some first impressions, I want to ask you guys, Brent and I saw it in one theater. Jake, you saw it in another theater at a different time.
I saw it with Kevin. Yep.
Friend of the show. So Brent, why don't you go ahead and tell us why don't you give us a little glimpse of how our movie experience went?
It was a mix of people. Like, there were old people, there were extremely young, like 15, 16. There was a group of teenage girls with a mom.
To give you context, Hereditary is rated R for very good reasons.
I don't know, it was almost like a slapstick type thing, because, like, you know how in some stereotype things of scary movies, when something very obvious is going to happen, and somebody's like, "Oh, don't go in there! Oh, he's in there!" Like, kind of like those things were happening, but it was also like,
So,
"Oh my god!"
But what I was seeing and watching around me was like how different people cope with really effed up movies. Where some people were just like, "Oh no, don't do this," and some of us were like legitimately shocked and dead quiet from fear.
Sure.
And why don't you tell them how you respond to it?
Please.
As if you don't know already, I turn away during moments I feel something bad is going to happen.
Which I happen to be sitting next to him.
Lucky bastard.
Uh-huh.
Usually I cast blame on people around me saying it's their fault.
Which I got a multitude of times throughout the movie. This is your fault.
But what really kind of actually annoyed me during this time was like your part of the movie theater experience was there's people who kind of like ruined the moment for me as far as the scariness goes, because they're just like, oh no, and they laugh. Their coping mechanism is to laugh it off, and I hate that. It kind of ruins the atmosphere for me.
I only laughed once in this movie, and I'll tell you what it is in spoilers, but I couldn't help but laugh, and then once I laughed, I'm like, I shouldn't have laughed. Yeah.
How was your showing?
It was good. The theater we went to only held like 60 people, but it was full. Like, Kevin and I both have movie pass, so we got there half an hour before the movie started thinking like, oh, we'll have our pick of the litter of seats, but we had to sit in the front row.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thank God the fucking seats
Reclined
super far back in the front row. Otherwise, we would have had shitty seats, but
Damn, front row in that movie?
I think it helped out with the scary factor.
Jesus.
It was a good experience. Train keeps on going for me with audiences not really like saying anything or being a part of the movie, even for this one.
That's great.
Like, no, I want like crowd experience. I want like the or that type of shit. Like that happened maybe once or twice in this one, but it wasn't like a full theater. It was like maybe 3 people saying it.
That's crazy because you had like the polar opposite. We had less people.
We had a guy in the back of our theater who spoiler. It's a spoiler scene, but he's like, "Oh no, look right there! Look right there!"
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
And then like I didn't know what he was talking about, and like then once I saw
You
him,
couldn't
like,
see it?
No, I'm like,
Oh,
oh
really?
shit. Yeah, I was freaking out.
See, that to me, like, I don't mind gasping and like, oh shit, like that. going out of your way, like taking that extra effort to make something obvious to other people who maybe haven't realized that yet, it takes away from it a little bit.
To give you a hint of where this episode's going to go and how this movie kind of reflected upon me, I was sweating the last 15 minutes of this movie from the tension alone. And it was I haven't sweated this from legitimate reaction to a movie in years.
I wasn't sweating, but I was thoroughly entertained. But not only by the movie, but by John's reactions.
Yeah, like when we agreed to see this movie, we just based it off the first trailer and we're like, oh, that looks good.
Yeah, it was out of nowhere too.
Everybody's saying this is like the next Exorcist. We want to go see that. I know John's a big puss when it comes to horror movies, so when we got done watching this, like one of the first things I said to my wife when I got home, and I'm like, I bet John couldn't fucking fall asleep. I bet John was so fucking scared out of his mind.
Let's take one quick step back. So obviously you talked about when you got home, but what was your first initial thoughts just leaving the movie?
I was just in shock. I was like, okay, so one, they went that way, but like the whole movie, I was just like, the whole time I was like, what's gonna happen next? Where are we going now? Like, oh my god, did that just happen?
Yeah. For me, this is one of the hardest movies I've had to review without spoilers because there's so much that the trailer doesn't tell you.
Yeah.
To where, like, when we walked in, I was ready for a nice, good horror movie. And then when I left, I was fucking shook to my core. And so was Kevin. And we just fucking sat there looking at the screen for like 90 seconds, not saying anything, just fucking soaking everything in. And as we were walking, we both took a piss afterwards. And we just like kept on being like, oh my god, I cannot believe this movie went to where it did.
Dude, don't watch me, but don't let me out of your sight either.
Yeah, please. Like when I walked out and we split off and I went to my car, I normally just sit there for 10 minutes to do notes, but I did it this time, but I was like legitimately freaked out at some things.
Did you check your car?
I checked the mirrors.
Yeah,
I checked the mirrors constantly. Like,
man.
oh fuck. And then when I was driving, I just put on music and I forgot about it. And then I got home and I completely like wasn't scared anymore.
One thing that crossed my mind after the movie was like, all right, this is the movie where you don't mess with people with this kind of thing because that gets you shot or punched or ran over or something.
And here's the thing. I'm not a big macho man, but I don't really get scared from horror movies, like hardly ever. Like ever since I was a kid, I really haven't. This one fucked with me. For a good like 10-15 minutes after I saw it, I just couldn't stop thinking about some things that happened. Like some scenes just fucking sear in your brain.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So when I first left the movie, I was literally disturbed. Like I didn't feel good about seeing this movie. And I usually tend to dislike movies that make me feel this way. But I'm finding myself in a position where what this movie, how it gets there and what it does, there's a twist that I didn't really like as much as where the suspense to get there was going. But man, the cinematography, this movie is like a master of its craft.
I'm glad I saw this in theaters because if I had my cell phone to fuck around with and I did that the first half hour, it wouldn't nearly have the effect it had on me.
I think I would agree. I think part of the experience was just the darkness of the movie theater and the visceral response you get from people around you and the audience.
Yeah, and me being 5 feet away from the screen to where all I had to do was like look up and just have everything just in the screen totally enveloped everything else. Like everything else just went away.
It's kind of like The Quiet Place, but sound plays such a ginormous part of this movie.
I want to argue the lack of thereof. This movie has...
Well, that and the sounds that you do hear are... Oh man, they get you.
They do get you.
Mm-hmm.
We've kind of already hit on a lot of these bullet points already, but I think we all can agree that as far as degree of horror and scariness, this is a topper.
This is like a movie that would have been made in the 70s or 80s.
Yeah,
it doesn't have a lot of the tropes that horror movies nowadays do, and I appreciate the fuck out of that.
Like one of the things about horror movies that really bothers me is when like you are kind of expecting something to happen. Something always happens.
Mm-hmm.
You don't always get that in this movie.
Nope.
And it really messes with you.
Yeah, some things build up to absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And it's great because it's just more of the movie fucking with you.
Right. Because then the next time it happens again, oh man, it just keeps storing it up.
Despite like where this movie ends up and remaining spoiler free, the level of subtle storytelling that's kind of going on through imagery, and it was like you Jake said, as a slow burn, but there's like enough of the intrigue and these little tidbits that are placed at this entire movie.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, the intrigue kept me captivated to where, like, I always looked for things that were happening in the screen.
Right.
It wouldn't be fair to, before we go into the spoiler section here, just talk about some of the quick performances by these people. Toni Collette as Annie Graham.
Yeah, fucking fantastic. I've loved her in a whole bunch of shit. Like, there's a Showtime show she did called The United States of Terra, where she has, like, multiple personalities.
Yeah.
She's amazing in that.
Mm-hmm.
But this is just, like, a whole other level. This is fucking brutal what she goes through. And you can just tell, like, in her performance, in her face, in her features or movements that she does.
Yeah.
She's 100% in this movie. In the credits, I saw that she was an executive producer, which means she had faith in this movie. She put her own money down. She
Yeah.
believed in it so much. And you can tell on screen.
Yeah. Like the core four, the family, extent that they go to portray their emotions is just ungodly.
Yeah. I'd say there's 5 main characters in this movie, and there's not a weak link to pick out.
No,
They
not at all.
They all do what they're supposed to do masterfully.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
stand out.
Another great performance was by Alex Wolff as the son Peter.
I was so impressed by him. Like, Toni Collette, I've seen do great performances. This kid was in fucking Jumanji last year.
Yeah.
And he was in the Naked Brothers band in Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
And he pulls off this.
Yeah.
It's fucking amazing.
Another actress we had was Millie Shapiro as Charlie, and she's like a 8-year-old girl, and she's like kind of the main person we see in the trailer.
This is her first movie.
Yeah, and it's really good.
She has a presence.
It's crazy.
It's ridiculous.
I don't want to be mean, but I feel a lot of it has to do with her facial expressions. She
Sure.
has a
But
demeanor about her.
But even the fact that what she is as like her part of the family and who she is as a person, she nails the crap out of it.
See, in a lot of horror movies, the kid is like the part that stands out the most. Like, kids that don't look normal definitely stand out in horror movies.
Yeah.
It's not a good or bad thing. It's just like, hey, you have something to you. You'll probably work in this genre.
Yeah.
And she did amazing.
I usually
yeah.
don't get emotionally invested in most of the characters in movies, but I was for every single person, every single part of the family.
Yeah, you could tell why every single person in this family did what they did. You knew their motivations.
Yeah.
And that's so hard to pull off.
Yeah, his family's so different, even in relevance to Gabriel Byrne as the dad, Steve. Like, he's probably like on the tier of characters, probably like the 4th in line for his importance. You look for strong leads in scary movies like this, and you get them with this cast in Hereditary.
And sometimes when movies only have like 3 sets, I notice that, and it kind of bothers me. Oh man, that does not bother me in this movie.
Yeah, and one thing I will say before we go anywhere else is the house in this movie, so fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many like nooks and candies that they go to. Like, this seems like one of those houses that comes from a classic horror movie, and even like the setting in the woods where
Yeah.
they're just isolated.
What's perfect about it is, like, even from a cinematography standpoint, like, during the day, it's a gorgeous house.
Yeah.
But at night, things turn horrible.
It's the only light around them is their house.
Exactly.
All right, I think we're ready. Let's jump into the spoilers section.
All right. Can we start with that sound?
Yeah.
Is that the most traumatizing sound ever now?
That sound was traumatizing in the trailer.
Yeah.
The trailer was
Oh.
like a lot of people laughed when I saw that in the theaters. And
That-
I'm like, no, that's great.
That, to me, was probably the most suspense builder.
It has no reason to be scary if you didn't see this movie. This movie puts a twist on a simple sound
Yeah.
and F's with you.
Sure shit
And
does.
it's not even like a ring thing where it's like a creature and it goes, or that. It's like, it's the girl's just,
It's a tick.
yeah, it's like a tick thing, but god damn is it terrifying.
Sure is.
So, obviously, we're in the spoiler section.
Yes.
Let's get back into I think I just want to jump to the ending cinematics and story,
Please.
right?
I guess.
Oh man.
Where else are you gonna
We're
go?
gonna go into everything. 'Cause it's got everything.
So, first of all, did you guys see a demonic cult shit coming?
I mean, kind of, because there's like underlying like
Yeah.
religious things.
I didn't think it was going to go there.
It goes where it goes, but they sprinkle in the littlest amount of detail about how her mother was never there.
Yep.
And they go through her books and they start looking through stuff and then they close it right away because we think as the audience that she doesn't want to like relive her past.
Right.
But if you look at some of the books, they talk about this this satanistic shit.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Let's jump into the point where pretty much Peter wakes up from his sleep.
Okay.
He's
Jesus.
busted his nose after that creepy scene in the classroom. We'll get back to that.
Uh-huh.
The kid wakes up, and this is where people in the movie theater are freaking the F out.
Well,
In the movie theater?
The
Yeah.
actual darkness of the room like goes back and forth slightly, and
From the window reflection.
First we see a fucking person climbing on the ceiling.
that's what I'm
around
saying.
him.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. He sits up in bed
Yeah.
because he thinks he sees her in the corner.
No, it's not even that. Before, like, you see him wake up, and then it's that shot for like 3 seconds, and then it's some fucking ring person crawling in white on the ceiling.
She's just in the corner. She's
Yeah.
just hanging there.
Yeah, then like you see like a very glimpse of her crawling in the background into the hallway.
Yeah.
F that noise.
It's so awesome.
I hate that imagery of the body twisting like that.
So fucking freaky.
And it just gets worse.
It wasn't even on anything. It was just like flying through the air.
And there was no noise. It was just silent creepiness.
Oh man,
Yeah, it sure was.
it's one of those things that sometimes horror movies do wrong, but in this case it does right, where we know something that's going on that the character in the movie doesn't realize. And typically it's terrible because it's one of those things where a dumb chick is walking to a room where you know the killer is.
Yeah.
He's completely oblivious to this thing in the back, which again kind of doesn't do anything ever.
But I loved it during this scene in particular because there's no slow crescendo in the background with music. It's just silent.
Oh man,
It lets the fear speak for itself.
It
Oh,
does.
yeah.
It lets the fucking freakiness on film say everything. It's
Well,
awesome.
if you weren't so like I don't know, if you weren't paying attention enough, you could easily miss her in the corner.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things that take its time to where, like, if you're paying attention, you'll see some shit.
Oh man, they do
And
it,
if you're not, it's just like, whatever. It just passes by you.
and they do it twice.
They do it a lot.
I will say it was past this point where I started to look away the most because
Yeah.
he gets into the living room and he sees his dad burnt to a crisp, and then we see her back in the corner creeping down, and this is
man.
when the boy starts to realize something's way effed up.
Well, he
yeah.
starts to slowly think, like, comes to realization maybe something's behind him.
Yeah, and you see that creepy naked cultist.
That's the part where I laughed.
Did ya?
Because it just randomly pans to this fucking naked guy and his tiny dick, and I just fucking laughed. I couldn't help it. I'm like, oh!
See, I was terrified because wasn't he like creepily smiling?
And that's
Oh,
the thing.
that guy.
That's when I stopped laughing. And I'm like, oh fuck, I've seen this guy before.
He's at the funeral.
He was at the funeral, and he's in the very background. Like,
Yeah.
he's barely in focus.
He's
but
just staring at the girl.
you see this creepy guy. It looked like he's like really close to the actual casket when
Yeah.
the girl's walking away.
Yeah.
And this dude is just fucking creeping on him. And this happens like an hour prior to when you see him again.
Yeah.
Well, that and like you think back to one of the first scenes, she's like, I see a lot of people here that I didn't, or I wouldn't be surprised to be here. Like she doesn't know who they are.
Sure.
Obviously because they're cultists.
Yep.
Jumping back to the living room scene though, when he starts to run and gets to the attic, and the mom's banging her head on the thing.
Freaky
man.
as fuck.
Yes.
And not just like
Oh God.
slowly or not just like
No.
every second, like 4 times a second. She's just like, yeah.
And that's where I can't handle it because the next scene we see Annie in is cutting her own head off.
yeah. At first,
with like a wire.
I think that's as iconic as Linda Blair in The Exorcist, like spewing vomit everywhere.
Sure.
Like that image, I'm never gonna forget.
No.
I want to forget.
I don't. It was
See-
like it was horrifying as fuck.
You see the mom's face still possessed as she's doing it.
Oh,
It's
she's
so-
looking right at him.
That's the only time in the theater where I just said, "Oh my god!"
Yeah.
Right.
I remember actually like grinding my teeth. I was like, I couldn't look away.
No, I gripped the handrest. Like I'm like, this is unsettling.
This is where I wanted it to cut to black though. I'd rather have that little light go into the body and him waking up and stop there. Once it gets to the treehouse, the demonic shit, that's where I can't do it anymore.
Well, this is where it loses a lot of people. And at first, when I saw this, it started to lose me. And normally, I don't like this type of thing to where like this is really fucked up and this would never happen. So it would take me out of it. Like when the floating body of Annie with no head goes up the treehouse,
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But by the time it was over, I was just I bought into it. I'm like, this is fucking crazy.
I wanted to be done once I saw all the dead bodies mixed with like the cultists and the little girl's head on the like pagan statue.
But that's exactly like the type of things, the type of figure she was building. Like,
Yeah.
remember with the bird head?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so messed up.
Yeah.
That's exactly what she was doing.
So do we think that was the girl ever in this movie, or was it the demon from the pagan lord demon guy from the start?
Oh, no, it was totally the girl.
Was it?
Yeah, I think so.
Because wasn't
The girl was just messed up from her grandma, who was a
Well, we had seen that she wished the little girl was a boy, and they freed her. They purposely killed her to free that guy and put him into Peter's body.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, you had to kill the sister in order to have the seance happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they were always going after Peter. That's
Yeah.
the thing. Can we talk about that decapitation scene?
Yeah.
Because holy fuck.
out of
Like,
nowhere.
Number one, that came out of nowhere. Number two, I don't know if that was some satanic bullshit that they put a spell on that stuff, or if it was just a circumstance where that fucking happened.
I think that's because that symbol was on the pole.
Yeah.
It was planned.
And that's the thing. Like, I want to rewatch this movie because
Yeah.
there's some things that I missed, because this played very well just knowing that earlier in the movie she's allergic to nuts.
Right.
And then you see these people chopping up walnuts, putting it into a cake that she's eating. And then as soon as he gets in that accident, as soon as he swerves from that deer and the girl's fucking head gets decapitated, which you never see,
No.
you just see like a
All you
shot
hear-
of the pole getting closer and closer.
Yeah, and all you hear is like a thud.
Yeah. The kid just fucking goes blank. Like, he doesn't have any expression on his face. He just keeps on driving
How
until he gets into bed.
He pretty much
Yes,
just
I say-
goes into shock.
Yeah.
Well, how
Like,
terrifying
just-
was that? You're like waiting for something terrifying to happen when he's looking in the mirror and just staring out the window. You think something bad's going to happen, but no, you're just absorbing the moment.
So I'm
Yeah.
saying, like, what I said earlier, like those things where something leads to nothing.
Yeah. And that's why the performance of this kid, Alex Wolff, surprised the fuck out of me, because he's just this average teenager, and then one traumatic experience happens,
Yeah.
and he just fucking changes, and he just gets more and more depressed, more and more fucked up, to where, like, at the end he's crying to his mom to stop when he was just an average teenager and like having little fights with her.
And throughout the movie, you think that there's a small chance of them like maybe reconnecting, because obviously there's been a disconnect.
Yeah.
And there's always small tidbits like, oh, maybe they can actually fix this, and you feel great, and then it just shits all over you again.
So let's talk about some themes that were kind of reoccurring through this whole movie. And I tried to put some highlights that maybe we didn't have dived in much into. But the first one I want to talk about is she's not actually in the movie, but we always have an overwhelming presence of the grandmother.
Grandma's so weird.
I'm very thankful they didn't have flashbacks, but Toni Collette does an awesome job just fucking talking through her experiences, and you just feel for her. But you're like, oh my god, you lived a fucked up childhood, a fucked up life in general, to where like once she's done talking, she looks at everybody looking at her like, oh my god.
Not only that, we kind of get like not only a cutback or a throwback, but we get elements to, I think her name was Ellen, the grandmother's story, and the relationship with the mom through the miniatures. Like a lot of the scenes that kind of effed up that relationship, she had made in this miniature set.
Yeah.
Like the breastfeeding scene with the little girl,
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
messed up. The hallway scene, the funeral, the doctor stuff, all that stuff was portrayed in those miniatures. Like that was telling us the backstory of that messed up relationship.
And I would say up to, like, the beginning of the movie starts with the mom dying.
Yeah.
But up until that point in her life, I would expect that like all of the trauma that she went through as a kid
Yeah.
made her the artist into what she is, and made her as like wealthy as she was.
Far as like the only thing we really get from the grandma is, like you said, the death scene, but we'll get a quick like scare tease of her in the corner in the shadows, but it's like played off as like Annie's dementia.
That she's, well, when the girl's still alive, she's also like in the ring of fire out in the
Oh yeah,
because-
yard.
They bring up that she sleepwalks.
so they tease this idea of Annie having dementia and like kind of unraveling from the traumatic events in this movie.
Oh yeah, like the whole time you get the feeling like, oh, maybe she's a lot more like her mom than she.
Hence the title.
Right.
Sure. But when Annie is talking to that first group,
Yeah.
she talks about having a brother
Yeah,
who heard voices and ended up killing himself.
yeah.
So I don't know if the mom was trying to convert the brother into being what Peter ended up being.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
the person for that lord, the devil lord.
Yeah. Well, she talks a lot more than just the brother. She talks about like all her other family had like schizophrenia and
and her dad like starved
Yeah.
himself.
Yeah.
So it sounds like the mom was trying to do this with her immediate family.
Right.
It didn't work because Annie didn't die.
Right.
This needed to where like everybody died, but the male died last.
It's all around this grandmother too.
Yeah.
Like for a person that's never physically like a character, what a overarching, terrifying presence that she held in this movie.
It's fucking creepy. Like, she's never on screen speaking a line.
Yeah.
You just see her in pictures and in her casket.
I picked the last picture of her before the movie closes.
In coins?
Yeah.
Just getting, like, showered in wealth for some fucking reason. Just cultish shit.
In relation to the grandma, the character of Joan, who's like this, supposed to be lady who's helping Annie with depression or losing somebody.
Yeah, they first meet at the support group that Annie's going to.
What a switch from, as her character goes from very nice to like, oh shit, she's a ringmaster in this.
That's the twist in this movie that really got me, because I never expected her to be a bad guy at all. But when you think back about it to where like, oh, hey, this girl's magically at the craft store that Annie's at, and she's starting to speak like, oh, hey, you're going to think I'm crazy, but I can talk to my dead grandson now.
Yeah. I would argue that first scene where they're at the Jones apartment or whatever, and they're doing the table thing with the cup, that's when the tone of the movie really starts to shift me from psychological to...
Mystical?
Like spiritual shit.
Yeah. And
that's when it started to lose me a little bit. But once I realized, okay, they're going to embrace this, I'm just going to go all in with this spiritual shit. Like, I don't like scary movies like that, but what they did was damn good.
See, I don't know, but I feel like they still had the hint of psychological, because I was still torn back and forth of where, do I feel bad for Annie, or is she just batshit crazy?
Exactly.
One thing I want to mention, we kind of talked about the family history there and how it plays like an overarching presence with kind of this family, and almost like how we teased... We're told how Annie's childhood began with the dad starving himself, the brother hanging himself. It was almost like, oh shit, when at the end of this movie, her family ended up being the same way. Mm-hmm. One being burned to death.
That was fucked up too.
I leaned over to Danielle, and she actually whispered to me, that's one of the scenes I wish the husband and the son would have just walked away.
Sure.
Yeah.
But nope, they don't get the chance to.
Gabrielle Byrne, that's why, like, he didn't have a lot to do because he was the fucking anchor of the family.
Yeah.
Like, when things were going to shit, he had to put on a straight face and just be like, okay, everything's normal, everything's going to be fine.
Yeah. And like, we know that they've had marital issues in the past, especially when she's trying to burn her children.
Yeah.
So that was effed up. And like, did you guys get a sense that there was something untold with, he kept referring to Peter as like, I'm taking my son away. There was a scene actually when Annie says, I wish I would have miscarried you. I tried to miscarry you.
Granted, that was in her dream.
True.
But I'm guessing that's her actual thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I feel like, even though that is in her dream, there is definitely that hostility towards Peter.
Oh yeah.
And that's why the dad, I think, has like such a good bond with him. Well, not every character, but especially the dad and Peter, because every time they reacted, I was like, oh, that's pretty much how I would have reacted in that same situation.
Sure.
This movie also does a good job of, like we've talked about before, placing little things here and there that lead up to this overall kind of mythos that goes on in this movie. Some of it comes from the miniature building that Annie does. A lot of it comes from symbols that we see in words that come from, like, they're on the walls.
Yeah, like, some of the words I still don't know what they mean.
I felt
like that are, like, handcrafted into the wall just, like, with a knife or some shit.
I think it's just some of those symbols that, like, at the end, like the demonic stuff, readings that they were doing.
Oh, sure. Like, the symbol is always the same. It's
Yeah,
always the one that's, like, on the necklace.
But the words.
Yeah, the words, when they, like, pan to them, I'm like, I don't know what this means.
Right, I think it's one of those small things where it leads up to later.
Yeah.
Where it makes more sense because, like, when she's trying to do the...
See, for a second there, I thought the Joan character, when she was yelling at Peter in the schoolyard...
Oh, my God.
...was some kind of chanting shit.
That was fucking freaky.
Yeah, because nobody else was hearing it, and you just see her from across the distance.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads into, like, the last thing I really want to talk about, and that's just noise in general. We did it in our intro to this section, but for a movie that plays so much upon fear and horror, like Jake made a good point earlier, that the fear speaks for itself in this movie. It doesn't rely too much on easily trope to go upon, and that's like the violins from The Witch, or just sounds in general that try to create tension. This movie does it without it, and I love it for that.
It's fucking fantastic. This movie has balls. This is the directorial debut for this guy. I can't remember who directed it, but this is his
Really?
first movie. Like, he's done shorts.
Seriously.
This is his first movie, and
Wow.
the craft and the balls and the risks that this guy takes, it is fucking amazing. Not only with how the story goes out, but with the editing style,
Yeah.
with the lack of noise to where he's just like, no, I don't need scare tactics. There's only one scare jump, like jump scare that I noticed, and it was like the first click.
No, that was scary as fuck to me.
Yeah.
Well, I thought one of the first jump scares was going to be when we hear and it's Peter staring at a chair with a coat on it. Like, oh, I thought something's going to jump here. No, it's just disturbing. That's all it is.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
just everyone going slightly crazy throughout the movie.
There's a scariness to nothing happen.
Yeah. This movie keeps on building and building on tension because it starts off as one movie and ends up completely in left field.
So let's change gears just a little bit. Let's go into our favorite scenes and some of you, if you guys have them, least favorite scenes. And I'm just going to kick off with an aspect we haven't talked about yet. I really enjoyed the scenes where we try to figure out what is this light that these characters keep seeing that point to things in the scene or
Sure.
objects in the thing. Obviously, we're led to believe at the end that it's some kind of spirit going into Peter's body, and it's been guiding him throughout this whole movie. But this whole time, it's very subtle and it's not really scary. It's just, but now I think if I go back and watch it, I can be terrified of how often it's in this movie.
I have two favorite parts. One is minuscule. One will stick with me forever.
Yeah.
One is when Annie and Peter have this talk about him going to the party. And it's so it just builds on their average family relationship to where he's trying to go and get
Hopefully-
high and get fucked because his friend randomly texts him. He's like, "Oh, dude, make sure you bring your dick."
Yeah.
He goes to talk to his mom. He's like, "Yeah, I'm just going to this high school barbecue." And the mom wants him to bring his sister along because he's just going to school.
Right.
And then he hesitantly does that, and the mom's like, "Okay, when you leave, you can't drink because you have your sister." And he's like, "Yeah, Mom, I wasn't planning on drinking anyway." Just, that was done super well. That got laughs in the theater.
Yeah.
But my favorite scene, the one that'll stick with me forever, is Annie fucking cutting her head off.
Yeah.
That's never gonna leave my memory.
I can't. The imagery, like I said earlier, is not the thing. It's the sound. That
Sure.
sound I cannot get out of my mind.
That scene
Better.
is iconic already.
Yeah.
Like, anybody that sees this movie, I don't think will ever forget that.
I don't think I can ever forget, to segue into mine, is like we were talking about silence. Like from the kid, Charlie, getting her head cut off. Like 7-8 minute absence of talking. Like the only talking, the next thing is that you hear the mom say, oh, "Okay, good, they're home." That's it.
Sure.
Well, then
That whole span, and then him just sitting there.
Oh, when he's in his bed just laying there?
Or no, well, first he at the car where he
Yeah.
stops and he's just speechless, and he's just clearly in shock, and he's just clearly in denial. He's like,
Yeah.
"She's fine, everything's fine. I'm just gonna go home. I'm gonna go to bed, and this is all just a bad dream."
Yeah.
I think one of my other favorite scenes, I think it's gonna go kind of passed over, but the dinner scene after Charlie dies.
Yeah.
You imagine how hard it would be to write the dialogue for that scene?
Yeah.
That scene is crazy good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man,
just between Peter and then Mom alone.
just the overall tension, and
Yeah.
then you can clearly tell they're just both holding back with everything they say, and just the minor things of him eating his chicken, it's just bothering the living crap out of her.
Yeah.
Just the minor things.
And just to reemphasize, my least favorite scene definitely had to be the last treehouse with the cult and the imagery, and they use the physical look of nakedness to a terrifying effect.
There was never any clue ahead of that point to where people got naked for any reason. Like, even the pictures of them showering the grandma in gold,
Yeah.
everybody was fully clothed.
Right.
So, I would say the nakedness was my least favorite part because they didn't need to do that. They added people in the nude to, a weird fucked up factor.
Yeah, and they also give him a blue hint for some reason.
Well, I think that's just him in the shadows.
Is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
because when they're in the treehouse with the candles, they don't look blue
They just
anymore.
look pale and disgusting.
Yeah.
I think if they were clothed and just in the shadows, it would be equally scary.
Yeah, I think so
equally
too.
Weird.
I don't think they needed the nudity. I just think they...
'Cause I think that's a really good point, actually, because I think the nudity actually took me away from me recognizing, putting more emphasis on recognizing them from the movie, throughout the movie.
Oh, see that creepy guy? First I looked at his dick, Then I looked at his face.
Okay, so the blonde guy I could not forget from the funeral.
Because it's creepy
Sure.
as hell.
Because he is weird as shit looking.
Maybe I went face, dick, face. I don't remember.
I went to the face first because the smile was
Oh,
terrifying.
yeah. And that
Yeah.
super blonde hair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but his smile was terrifying at the funeral, just knowing nothing about the guy.
That's true.
And then you see him, and
man.
I don't know if the nudity is supposed to just add another like fucked up factor, but it pulled me out. Like that's the only time I laughed. I'm like, what the fuck?
Props to that guy for just being so creepy, just smiling.
Uh huh.
All right, putting those scenes aside, before we jump back into a spoiler-free section, I kind of want to talk just real quick. We've already hit on this, but comparisons to other scary movies, we know what it does right. We know some things we didn't like. How does this rate, like, for compared to other scary movies?
It's up there.
It's really up there,
It's-
especially because the horror movies that we've gotten in the past 10, 15 years,
Hot garbage.
they rely on the jump scare factor.
Yeah.
They rely, like, the last horror movie I saw before this was Truth or Dare. And
Yeah.
that movie was never scary. That movie was relying on teenagers to go there and think that they're going to get scared, and nothing happens.
Yeah, it's the stupid thing where you get mad at a character in the movie because they're doing something very stupid.
Yeah.
Where you know something's going to happen to them because they're making a bad decision.
I didn't get that in this movie.
No, that's what's so great about it.
This movie takes its fucking time.
Oh,
and
man.
the best classic horror movies do that. Like Rosemary's Baby does that. The Exorcist does that. The Shining does that.
Yeah,
It just, the Thing does that, for fuck's sake.
it does.
Yeah.
So where like not a lot happens. The Alien, what you just talked about, what you saw, not a lot happens at like the first third half of the movie, and tension starts to build. You're like, okay, when's something gonna happen?
Right.
And then shit happens.
Yeah.
And then it just keeps on going. This movie is it's a whole nother beast. It's hard for me to compare this movie to something else because I haven't seen anything like this in so long.
I think we're all on that page, right?
Yeah, I think so too.
All right, that being said, let's jump back into the review section of our show, and that's going to be spoiler-free. So open up Thursday night. I can't imagine this movie has a huge budget. It plays it very low-key, doesn't rely on special effects. Maybe,
Yeah. I'd say less than 50.
I'd say less than 20, for sure.
I would say anywhere between 10 and 25.
Yeah. For opening night, it pulled in $200 million.
Yeah, and this movie is being made by A24.
Right.
They do a whole bunch of arty movies like this. Like this movie studio takes risks. $1 million on a Thursday is good for this. Like if this movie makes 15 to 20 million opening weekend, that's a success for this studio. And that's awesome.
I'm hoping it just has like continuous weeks of close to 1 million because of word of mouth.
Sure.
Because people go see it and like, wow, that was a lot better than I thought it was going to be.
And that's also saying something compared to it opened up against Ocean's 8, which delivered $4 million. And I think also Hotel Artemis opened this weekend as well. But Hotel Artemis only brought in $271K from Thursday night showings. All right, so let's talk about what some reviews have been going around this movie. And it's actually almost kind of what we've been talking about this entire time. It's been high praise. Metacritic is sitting at an 87 based on 44 critics. So not a lot of people have seen it yet, for as critic-wise, but they're liking it. Rotten Tomatoes is sitting at a 94%. And that's based off 156 reviews.
Okay.
So the people who are seeing this are really liking it.
I know this movie played at Sundance, so that's where it got a lot of like the high praise and all the stuff that happened in the marketing.
Which totally makes sense because, like we talked about here, this movie gets people talking.
Mm-hmm.
But now that we've talked about it, we got to go into our own 5-star review. And I think I'm just going to take the helm on kicking this one off. I did not feel good after seeing this movie. I don't want to see it again. It just, not my kind of movie. Hit some notes in me that I don't like to experience. With that being said, what it did so well. Cinematography, the themes, if it had a goal to strike fear in me, boy, it sure did. And if you're a horror fan, go see this movie. I'm giving this a 4 out of 5.
The way that we do our 5-star rating scale, I posted on my Instagram at Steelbook Obsessed if you want to look, but 1 is horrible, 2 is bad, 3 is average, 4 is superb, 5 is a classic. I honestly think when we look back in 10 years, people are going to look back at Hereditary as something fucking special. Like, we've had a lot of good horror movies recently with a lot of people love It Follows, The Babadook, all this stuff. Yeah. This movie is on top of that pedestal. And this movie does stuff that really isn't done anymore. And people compare this movie to The Exorcist all the time. Like, in the marketing, that's what it says.
Yeah.
I don't know. The Exorcist is a classic, of course. I feel like this movie's going to be a classic. I'm giving this movie 5 out of 5.
Wow.
I don't think I've ever given a movie on the podcast 5 out of 5.
You have not.
And there might be some parts of the movie that I talked about in the spoilers that don't really sit with me the right way. But I can't get over the fact to where, like, when I was done watching this, I just had this aura over me to where, like, this hasn't happened to me in theaters, like, ever. Like, there are some movies where I see it and I'm speechless at the end. This gave me, like, yucky vibes. This gave me, like, chills, and this made me look behind me in mirrors when I was, like, in my car sitting before I actually started driving home. And if you are a horror fan, like John said, go out knowing nothing to see this movie, because you are in for a treat.
I watched the trailer for this. I had no idea. I was just like, I'm going in here with this and watching it. And holy God, kind of what Jake was said, I have not had that experience from a movie in a long time. I kind of had something similar with It, but this is something completely different, and good God, is he right when it says it'll sit with me for a long time. Like, I won't be able to forget this. There are certain things, certain scenes in some movies that I'll never forget, but almost everything about this movie I can't forget. This is going to be a 4.5 for me. It's hard not to give it a 5, but
Why not give it a 5, bud?
Because there are some things, like Jake said, that didn't sit with me right, and that brings it down. But
see, my thing is that there are a couple nitpicks.
Yeah, and that's true.
This movie, I can't nitpick. Like, for what it accomplished, it's amazing that it turned out as well as it did.
Yeah. I know that I really do want to see it again. I really do, because I want to watch. I want to watch it again and see how much different it is the second time watching it, knowing what I know.
There are some things that happen in this movie that normally don't work for me in movies that are like this. And for some reason, stuff that happened in this movie towards the end didn't bother me like I thought it would.
Yeah.
Just the sum of everything makes it into something magical. I went to see this with Kevin, and he's a huge fan of horror. Just a gut reaction from him. He said he gave it a 4.5 out of 5.
Wow.
I actually really want to have a conversation with him about this movie.
Yeah.
I really wish he could have been on here.
Yeah, I'm the heist hound, but he's the horror something. I'll come up with a pun later.
All right, guys, let's jump into the last portion of our show, and that is we got Jake with the trivia tonight.
I do, and I decided to take the reins on this trivia because we reviewed Hereditary. That's about a family.
Oh, boy.
And the only two people we have in the podcast besides myself are brothers, John and Brent. And speaking of them being family, the game that I made today is a game that I like to call Name That Family.
We are family.
So what I'm going to do is I have 8 famous families from movies.
Okay.
I'm going to read a description of that family. Someone has to ring in first. And by ring in, I mean say your name, like John or Brent.
Ding, ding.
And once you ring in, you can earn up to 2 points. 1 by naming the movie, and 2 by naming the last name of the family. And the person who has the most points at the end wins.
Okay.
Let's do it.
We are family.
Let's see here for the first one. In-laws can be tough. But for this character, his new father-in-law brings out the very worst in him. In a series that began with this movie, 2 wildly different families continuously put a marriage to the test.
Ding.
Well, no, say your name.
John,
Thank you.
Meet the Fockers?
That is correct.
Yes.
And what's the last name of the family?
Fockers.
Okay, good.
Yay!
That one was easy.
Yeah.
It's Meet the Parents, but I'll give you like any movie that these people have been in.
Gotcha.
So
Sweet.
that's 2 points, John.
We are family.
Second question. Here we go. Like most kids, this kid has moments where he wishes his family would just leave him alone. Frankly, with a family as big as his, who can blame him? When his family leaves for vacation and leaves
Ding.
him behind, say your name.
Brent.
Okay,
Home Alone.
that's correct. Do you remember their last name?
Is it the Mitchell family?
That is incorrect.
Is it Michael?
It is the McAllisters.
McAllisters.
Kevin McAllister.
Sure, that's it.
Okay,
2-1.
so yeah, that's John with 2 and Brent with 1.
We are family.
Third question out of 8. What could possibly bring a family together more than killing and eating an innocent young group of friends? Quite possibly the most terrifying of film families. A family at the center of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre allows this character to deal with...
Brent.
Okay. Yeah, you don't lose anything by ringing in and getting it wrong.
Twilight.
What?
It is definitely not Twilight, Brent.
Fuck.
Guess you get one guess, John.
John, isn't the Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
That is correct.
I don't remember. I blocked those movies down my memory.
I don't know the family.
I would be impressed if you did. The Sawyers.
Yeah, never would have got that.
Okay, so it's John 3, Brent 1.
We are family.
Question 4. When this character realizes she is pregnant, she is faced with a difficult next 9 months in her life. When she is seamlessly starting a new family of her own, we see how her family comes together. Whether it is with her biological father, her stepmother, her best friend, or the mother who will be receiving her child, she sees that blood isn't what makes a family, but rather how the people in your life support you throughout the times you need someone the most.
Brent.
Okay?
Is it the movie with Tina Fey and...
It is not Baby Mama.
Okay.
Sorry.
John,
Okay.
where the heart is?
It is not that either. Okay, so both of you are wrong. The movie I was talking about was Juno.
I've never
Juno.
seen it.
Okay.
You never seen Juno?
No.
Interesting.
The family's name was the McGuffs.
Fantastic.
Not McGruff, the dog.
Yeah,
McGuff.
We are family.
The family in this movie couldn't be more awkward. With a grandfather addicted to heroin, a suicidal uncle, and a son who's taken a vow of silence. They and the audience know that a trip to a beauty pageant with the entire family will probably be hell. But this family beautifully put together a group of people who may never come in first, but at least they'll show up together.
Ding. Brent.
Okay?
Family Vacation?
That's incorrect. I'm sorry.
John, the Addams Family?
That is incorrect as well.
Oh, boy.
The movie Little Miss Sunshine.
I haven't seen it.
None of you have seen that movie?
No.
No
Oh
idea
my
that was even a
God.
movie.
Oh my god.
I know of it.
Okay. The family is the Hoovers.
We are family.
They may not seem much more than the regular family with their own squabbles and problems, but as this family becomes a family that utilizes the best of what everyone has to offer to work together as a great team. With Pixar's first film starring human characters, the animation studio
Brent.
brought more...
The Incredibles.
That is correct.
Johnsons.
The Pars.
Okay.
The
I
Pars.
remotely remember that.
Okay, that is John with 3, Brent with 2. Let's see here. We have 2 questions left.
All right.
Okay.
We are family.
This family has gone to Wally World, Europe, Vegas, and spent Christmas together and still haven't completely torn themselves apart. With this father always trying to create the perfect memories,
Oh,
his mostly supportive,
Brent.
usually
John.
concerned... I heard Brent first.
Christmas Vacation.
That's correct.
Oh.
And do you remember their last name?
I can't think of it. I can see him picturing him saying it in each scene.
Sure.
Let's start with an M.
Nope. R or W. The Griswolds.
Griswolds. That's what it
The
is.
Griswolds.
We are family.
Okay, so this is the last question. We're tied up 3-3.
Oh, boy.
You only need to get the movie. So let's see here. If you only need to get the movie, I will throw in the name of the family because it's the next point that wins.
Okay.
Okay? The Corleones are arguably the most famous film family of all time, and for good reason. The classic tale of a mafia family undergoing... Okay.
The Godfather.
That is correct.
Yes!
The person who has never seen The Godfather got The Godfather. Neither of you have.
Nope.
That's why I threw this in there, because I knew you fuckers haven't seen it. When I said Corleone, you guys didn't know it. But you're like, oh, Mafia.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that, John wins 4-3. That was a close game, folks.
That was a solid family game.
We are family.
That being said, that's been episode 46 of Super Media All-Stars. You can find us on all kinds of social media. The first one being Facebook. Please like and follow us there. You can find us on Twitter. Follow us there. You can find us on Instagram at Super Media All-Stars.
You can follow me on Instagram at Steelbook Obsessed. Right now, I am doing my box sets because I need to buy some more Steelbooks, and I have already, but I'm going to do some more things. I'm going to do box sets, and then I'm going to do some fancy DVDs I have, and then some VHS, and then I'll go back to Steelbook, but it's all movie related, and I've gotten a lot of likes out of the box sets I've gotten now. So if you want to see more, follow me, Instagram, Steelbook Obsessed.
Biggest Steelbook tragedy as of late is Annihilation came out and did not get a Steelbook.
I'm so pissed.
The movie deserves a Steelbook.
Either I buy a movie day one with a Steelbook, or I wait until it's on sale at Family Video for $5.
Pretty much.
That's how my Blu-ray collection works.
I don't blame you. You can listen to us on all kinds of podcast services. Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher Radio. And most importantly, check us out on YouTube. You'll find us all our content there, including the podcast itself, some unboxing videos. We got some... I teased it last week, still haven't done it yet. We got some Wonder Ball coming. Jake unboxed some Wonder Balls. I'm still going to post that.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool unboxing that happened. So
There's cool stuff inside.
I'm looking forward to it.
And then we got a bonus video game movie still coming its way. We'll be posting that shortly. Until next time, audience, I thank you for joining us. Guys, thank you for joining me. We'll see you next time.
Jump scare!
Game over, man. Game over.
Bye-bye.
I am out of here.